Hey, good morning, guys. Yesterday we talked about context clues and how to make meaning of words that we're not familiar with. So today we're going to practice that a little bit. In the back of your book, the very last page, is a chart that says making meaning with words. On the left, we have the words, and I've highlighted the words that we've read so far in context with a story. The ones that are not highlighted are because they're in next week's story, so we haven't read them yet. So we've got abandon, contentment, endure, proceeded, skidded, sustained, and thrashing. So starting on page 4, which is our first story, we have got the word skidded, and I've circled it here. Let's see if I can try to zoom in, not out. Sorry. So this is the story here, boy, about the dog in the grocery store. So here we have, he skidded to a stop and smiled right at me. So there are no clues in our sentence that lead us to understand the word skidded, which means we have to look other places. So I'm going to look, if he skidded to a stop and smiled at me, the best place for me to look is before the word. So what was happening before he skidded to a stop? And if I back up a little, it says the dog came running around the corner. He was a big dog and ugly, and he looked like he was having a real good time. Okay? He skidded to a stop. So if he was stopping his body and he was running around the corner, what in the world would a skidded to a stop mean? Did he just stop? Okay, so no, he had a lot of momentum. He was going really fast. So skidded to a stop means kind of a, how do you put this in words? Let's see, skidded. Kind of screeched. I don't know if that's a better word to use. He screeched, kind of all of a sudden, and maybe instead of screech, we can say he slid, like he was sliding. Might be a better word than screeched, but it wasn't like he just stopped. He was like, at Opal. So skidded to a stop. It was not a pretty stop. It was a fast, sudden stop. On page 6 is our next word. I guess we could write that. Let's write that on our chart. Skidded down here at the bottom. Page 4. My definition is a quick, sudden stop. Okay, we're not going to write a sentence right now with it. Okay, on page 6 is our next word, and that's thrashing. So 2 pages further, at the bottom of the page, now we're in Waiting for Stormy, the horse, and we're in the paragraph where Maureen is daydreaming out the window at school. And it says, I'm going to back up. Oh, it's a long sentence. And she saw a great wind come up, and she watched it slap the ship onto a reef and crack it open like the shell of an egg. And she saw the ponies spewed in the sea, and she heard them thrashing and screaming in all the wreckage. So in Maureen's daydream, the ship that had the ponies on it wrecked. Okay, it hit a reef, it cracked open, and the horses all went into the sea. They spewed into the sea. She heard them thrashing and screaming. So we have the use of the word and, which is going to bring together the idea of screaming with thrashing. So given the situation, this is not a good situation, right? This is kind of a scary situation. Horses are not going to be happy. Their ship just wrecked. All of a sudden, they're in the ocean. They're fighting for their lives. They're screaming and thrashing. So this is what their voice is doing. They're screaming and neighing, and they're thrashing. What do you think their body was doing? Screaming and thrashing. Yeah, so the thrashing, I'm just going to flip to our chart so I can kind of save time. Thrashing would mean that they're kind of throwing their bodies about. Throwing eat their bodies around, kind of in a panic, right? They're kind of panicking. Panicking might have a K. All right, write that down while I spell check real quick. I think we do. We add a K. I'm sorry, because if we don't, the C makes the S sound. So it's panicking. Ugh, ugly. So when we have a C that has an I after it, it normally makes it make the S sound. So we add a K here to protect the C. So it still makes the K sound, panicking. All right. So next is on page 9, contentment. So we're going to go 3 more pages past 6 to page 9. And that's still waiting for Stormy, and you can see I have it circled here. And in this paragraph, they were talking about what was actually, no. Let's see. Yeah, this is what's actually happening on the farm. So we're out of the daydreams, and it says, out on the marsh, Billy Blaze and Watch Eyes, pretending to be stallions, fought and neighed over the little band of mares. So the boy horses are kind of picking with each other about the girl horses, and Misty looked out at them for a long time. So Misty was our horse that's going to have the baby. Then she went to her manger and slowly began, so here are some where our kind of clues come into how she's feeling. She slowly began munching her hay. The hen, now satisfied with her nest, fluffed out her feathers and settled herself to lay on one tiny brown egg. Contentment closed them in like a soft cocoon. So this is a really good example from our chart yesterday of giving us an example in the sentence of something else that might help us understand the word contentment. So this word contentment closed them in like a soft cocoon. So if we think about like a soft cocoon, what's the feeling that we get with that? Is that a positive feeling? Negative feeling? Yeah, it's a positive feeling. So contentment must be that feeling of being content, which means that we're happy, we're pleased, we feel safe. It's all those good feelings. So if I find contentment on my chart, I'm going to write the feeling of being happy, safe, pleased with what's going on. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Our next 2 words come from page 14. I need to flip this way still. Page 14. We have the word endure and the word abandon down towards the bottom. Endure happens in the paragraph where we're talking about the guest law with Lad. And it says that Lad had been taught the sacredness of the guest law. Civilly, he would endure the pettings of the visiting outlanders. Okay? Gravely, he would shake hands with them on request. So we have the idea, and this word is easily understood if we understand how Lad feels about outlanders, which are strangers. And we learn that in the first pages that he's not real fond of strangers. He doesn't like when they pet him. He doesn't like when they stare at him. But the guest law says that he has to be polite. So if he is enduring the pettings of the visitors, he gravely shook their hands. These are negative feelings. These are negative feelings. They're not very good feelings. So it helps us to understand that he's enduring the pettings. that means he's kind of putting up with it. He's doing it because he has to. Okay, you guys endure our lessons sometimes. Sometimes I hope you're excited about them. So we go to endure on our chart. Endure is kind of to put up with. And I'm going to add, you put up with it because you don't have a choice. You have to. And I'm going to kind of put a straight face here. It's kind of like a negative feeling, like, ugh, ugh. The next word was, what did we say it was? Proceeded. No, 14. Abandon. Okay, so if I look back at abandon, one page too far, sorry guys. At the bottom, he's talking about how he interacts with the master and with the mistress. So we learned that with the master, he kind of goes on walks and it's kind of more serious. But with the mistress, he would play with all the silly abandon of a puppy, rolling on the ground at her feet, making as though to seize and crush one of her little shoes. So with this, all the silly abandon of a puppy. So abandon means to kind of let go, to leave what he does on a regular basis, because he's not a puppy. He's a grown dog, and most of the time he's pretty serious. But with the mistress, he can kind of abandon that and just feel free to be a puppy. So he abandons the other behaviors and has that freedom of feeling of just being a puppy. Okay, so if I abandon you during class, it means I leave you. Yesterday I abandoned my children on accident because my internet was wonky. So abandon is to leave. Sometimes to leave alone. Or we can even say kind of to forget about. You might abandon a thought that's making you sad. You might abandon a friend who's making bad choices. Okay. Then we move on to page 15, and then we have 17, and we are done. So let's look at page 15, which is the next page. And we are in the paragraph where our first moment of horror starts with the mistress. So they're out on the river or on the lake, and it says, at the same moment, a flaw of wind caught the canoe's quarter, and after the manner of such eccentric craft, the canvas shell proceeded to turn turtle. So the shell of the boat proceeded to turn turtle. Yeah, proceeded means kind of to continue. I guess I should have not written, don't write this here, guys. We're going to write it on our chart. To continue. If you proceed with a behavior that you've been asked not to do, there's consequences. If I say, don't give up on your test, proceed forward, do the ones that you know, come back to the ones that give you trouble. We know that proceed means to continue, to move forward, to not stop. So proceed means to continue or not stop. All right, last word. On page 17, we have sustained. And this is the last story of our page of the story Quiet, Glad the Dog. And we have sustained is in paragraph 15. In this way, by sustained effort that wrenched every giant muscle in the collie's body, they came at last to land. So we know if his muscles are wrenching and at last they came to land, we know there's kind of a struggle going on. And we also know that because we know that the mistress's dress was weighing her down and it was very difficult for Lad to save her. But it says he had sustained effort. So effort is the energy we put into something. Sustained, did he not accomplish his journey? He did. So if he had sustained effort, it means effort that doesn't quit. Sustained means, we'll go back to our last page real quick. And sustained means, down here, to